Number 16 Ole Miss beat Liberty 27-24. And the thing I was most excited for in this game was watching Liberty quarterback Malik Willis against an SEC level defense. And like a secondary storyline was I love watching Ole Miss quarterback Matt Corral. A lot of people say he's a first round pick. I'll get into that later. But like Matt Corral against Liberty, you're supposed to dominate Liberty. That's not a. I want to watch Matt Corral against LSU, Auburn, Alabama, Georgia, like against really good defenses. I expect Matt Corral to have a great game against lower level Liberty. But watching Malik Willis against the top defense is what I'm really excited to see. And Malik Willis did not have a great game. He was 16 for 25 passing for 173 yards, 0 touchdowns passing. He did have a touchdown rushing, but he threw not 1, not 2, but 3 interceptions. And, oh man, I should have seen this coming. Like, I feel dumb that I hyped up this game because I'm like, well, of course. Oh, you mean Liberty had a hard time against Ole Miss? What a shock. It's not surprising. It's like, wait, come on. Of course they're going to have a hard time and lose the game. I think if anything, it's impressive that Liberty only lost by 13 points. This game was a physical mismatch. I mean, Malik Willis got sacked 7 times in the first half. His receivers really struggled to get separation. They had a couple drops. In the first half, Liberty got dominated up front on the line of scrimmage. And it just, again, physical mismatch is what I say here. This is Alabama against New Mexico. This is Oregon against Wyoming. This is a game where, of course, the bigger school with better players is going to dominate the smaller school that doesn't have as good of recruits. Liberty has a star quarterback. That's about it. And, look, in the second half, Ole Miss kind of took their foot off the gas, put in some backups, and what happened was Ole Miss said, we're up, 24, 27 at points, and we're just going to, I think they were up 24-7 at one point. And they said, we're just going to give Liberty numbers in the box, and meaning that they're going to have fewer defenders playing the run, kind of forcing Liberty to, if they want to run any kind of competent offense, Liberty had to run the ball. And it was fine. Liberty would run for like 6 yards, 4 yards, 5 yards. It worked well for Liberty, but it also just ate up tons of time on the clock. And, that's basically how Ole Miss decided to, they got a lead, said, we're going to give numbers in the box. We'll give you 6 yards every play, and you're just going to run up the clock on offense. And that's what Liberty did. So kind of an interesting strategy for Ole Miss. Also, I think Ole Miss really, heard Lane Kiffin talk at halftime. He's like, I want to get my backups in the game. Now, of Malik Willis's 3 interceptions, 2 of them were bad. His first interception was a throw that I thought it was actually it was a 3rd and 5. He literally was on his back foot, makes a really good throw low where only his receiver could get it. His receiver catches the ball and then rolls immediately. And on the roll, the defender stole the ball from his receiver. And so the ball it's technically an interception. That pick is not on Malik Willis. That's a good throw. It's actually a really impressive throw, I thought. And I got to say, man, Malik Willis reminds me of Matthew Stafford, the way he throws the ball, like from different arm angles, from, the ability to do all kinds of stuff. I mean, I really think if you don't recognize the talent Malik Willis has, that's on you. And you feel free to criticize him. Feel free to look at this game and say, Malik Willis is terrible. And you can do that. I would say, well, he played against a really good football team, and it was a physical mismatch. And I'll talk more about that in a moment. Let's talk about second interception he had, because interception number 2 was a bad one. It was a hole shot to the opposite hash. Either he was trying to throw a hole shot, or he just simply didn't see the safety there and thought he could just throw it up. Either way, it was a bad decision. Throw it on the right sideline, got picked off. Really easy interception. And then interception number 3 was probably the worst one of the game. Came at the end of the fourth quarter. Liberty's down 27-14. They're actually driving. They have a chance to score with like 2-3 minutes left. And it was such an avoidable interception. I believe it was first down. Don't quote me on that. Someone can find that. It's early on in the down, though. And Malik Willis rolls out to the right, extends the play, and just launches it up into the end zone up for grabs. And it's like, what are you doing? Again, if it's fourth down, fair enough. You got to make a play. You got to do something. But in that situation, throw the ball away. It's first down. Throw it away. Move on. And it was a good, again, Malik Willis is not a finished product. I mean, we're going to talk about Malik Willis as an NFL quarterback. And in this game, you certainly don't go, wow, what a great game Malik Willis had against Ole Miss. I would have liked to see him do great, and he didn't. But again, you're severely outmatched. Malik Willis got sacked 9 times in this game. And I thought what he did show off really well was his physical talent. Again, he's got a huge arm. He made some defenders miss multiple times and had some good runs. And I just, like, again, like, the talent is there. You either see it or you don't. It's fine if you don't. I believe in Malik Willis, and I don't believe Malik Willis is a guy you want to start week 1 next year of the NFL, but his potential's off the charts. And this game, Liberty at Ole Miss, kind of reminds me of in 2017 when Oregon played Josh Allen in Wyoming. That was also a big physical mismatch, and Josh Allen was 9 for 24 passing with 64 yards and an interception. It was an ugly game for Josh Allen against Oregon in 2017. He goes on to be the number 6 overall pick. Now he's one of the best young quarterbacks in the entire NFL because he's got a ton of physical ability. And Malik Willis is not a guy that's even close to a finished product. That's fine. But if I'm a coach, I'm like, that guy can do a lot, and I can teach him how to play. He's also big. He's 6'1". He's not huge, but he's built big and durable. And I just look at what Malik Willis can do, and I'm like, this guy's special. And I don't care that he throws a couple bad interceptions. I can teach him how to. If I'm an NFL coach and I'm confident in my ability, I'm like, I can teach this guy to play quarterback. He's cheap, he's talented, and I can teach him how to play. So, like, again, I'm not surprised Malik Willis had a bad game against Ole Miss. He was massively outmatched. It's Liberty against an SEC team. And he was running for his life. They couldn't protect him. But again, the last thing I want to say about this before we move on to Matt Corral is that the talent is so clear with Malik Willis. And if you want to say this loss against Ole Miss is an indication of why he's not the top quarterback in the draft, go ahead. You feel free to do that. But again, I already quoted Josh Allen against Oregon, right? Like, when you're on an average to bad football team, at least in comparison to an SEC team, and you lose, that's expected. Like, I just, I don't know. I digress, but I just look at Malik Willis, and I'm really, really high on the guy. The only question is Malik Willis eager to learn the same way that Justin Herbert was, the same way that Josh Allen was? Because they came into the league with some questions, and they came in, worked their butt off, learned the offense. Justin Herbert was a success much quicker than Josh Allen, but Josh Allen's a way different quarterback than he was 3 years ago. And the question is, will Malik Willis work hard to get even better from now to where he is in 2 to 3 years? If he does that, the sky's the limit. Now, one thing I learned, by the way, in this game, and I was surprised about this, is that Ole Miss does not hate their former head coach, Hugh Freeze. Hugh Freeze was the former Ole Miss head coach. He left with scandal and NCAA violations, and now he's head coach at Liberty. And this was his first game back in Oxford, Mississippi. I believe that's where, because Starkville's where Mississippi State is. And he was actually welcomed and appreciated into Oxford, Mississippi. I was surprised at the level of respect he was actually given. I forgot. Like, I kind of makes sense. Like, I forgot that Hugh Freeze beat Nick Saban 2 times in a row back to back. And you're like, well, okay, I get why they don't hate the guy. Like, yeah, allegations, yeah, scandal, whatever. Ole Miss is in a good place now. They got Lane Kiffin now. And Nick Saban. He beat Nick Saban twice. Hugh Freeze did. Now that Ole Miss has moved on, they've got a new coach, Lane Kiffin. They're happy. And they look back on Hugh Freeze and go, it was a good time. Like, we won a lot of games. We surpassed expectations. We beat Alabama twice. I think it's kind of cool that it's kind of cool. It's kind of surprising, but it's also kind of cool that they don't hate their former head coach, Hugh Freeze. He was welcomed with open arms. Now, let's talk about Ole Miss quarterback Matt Corral. A lot of people tell me he is a first-round pick, and he might be. Right? Like, I want to be clear. Like, I want to be clear. I don't have a decision. A lot of people want me to pick a side on Matt Corral. I'll tell you, I'm not comfortable doing that. I've only watched him play 2 games this year. I watched him play Auburn, and I watched him play now Liberty. Liberty is like, well, you're going to dominate Liberty. They're not a SEC football team. I like what I've seen. I haven't seen enough to tell you that I would draft him in the first round. I also haven't seen enough to tell you that he's not a first round pick. I just don't have, I haven't gathered enough information on Matt Corral. And I apologize if you want me to come out now and say he's a first round pick. I promise I'll make a determination and tell you what he is in like March leading up to the NFL draft. I need to watch every game he's played. I have a whole process. I will say, so I need to see more, but I will say I love his mobility. The dude is also playing hurt, and I love the toughness that Matt Corral plays with. You can see he's limping. He's not at 100%, and he's still running really well, making plays whatever he can. He had an awesome play against Liberty where he reverse pivoted, rolled left, kind of threw a guy open, literally like a back shoulder throw to make a guy who wasn't really open, threw him open. I love that. Matt Corral, he did run quite a bit in this game against Liberty, and he does a great job of sliding, getting down, protecting himself. I love all that stuff. And now I don't love his throwing motion. I think it's a little short, and that's short meaning I worry he doesn't separate enough on the ball to get more on it throwing vertically. But also, like, who cares? Like, I'm telling you, like, I look at it and go, like, I don't love that, but he's also highly accurate. So, like, who really cares if his throwing motion isn't pretty? Like, it doesn't really matter. So I'll tell you, like, that's how I feel, but also how I feel it doesn't matter because the results on the field with Matt Corral are really impressive. And what I've seen, he makes good decisions. He seems like a great leader. I hear his name a ton, and I want to just kind of update anyone who isn't clear. Like, Matt Corral is on my radar. He might be a first-round pick, and I will just, he's definitely one of the names I will do a film analysis on this February February, March, depending on how it works out. But he's on my radar. I'm excited about him. I don't have enough information yet to tell you definitively whether he is or is not a first-round pick. He might be the second best quarterback in the draft. I mean, there's not a lot of great options this year. Matt Corral looks really good, and time will tell. I'll do more film analysis on him later, but that's where I stand on him now. Is I like him, and I'm not sure yet what he's gonna end up at. When I got to watch more film, and I just have to tell you how I really feel. I can't like lie to you and be like, I hate him, because if I said I hated him, I wouldn't have any reason to hate him because I haven't seen enough, and I also don't have enough reason to praise him as a first-round pick because I haven't seen enough, and so that's how I feel about Ole Miss quarterback Matt Corral.